Ashton Rich. It's crunch time.
Welcome to the studios of 91.9 FM. Jeff Matthews, Ashton Rich, Brad Bader on the board. We are back again. It is crunch time, and as always, we love to start our week out with just trying to hang
Don't
out.
ask me how my weekend was.
How was your weekend?
Don't ask me how my
How was
weekend
your weekend?
I mean, we had a broadcast on Sunday.
We did.
We had Austin. What do you mean we?
Oh yeah, I wasn't there.
I know. But
I was
me and
talking we as
I
in
was-
Austin P.
me
I'm a
and
part
Brad-
of Austin P.
Me and Brad were there. We were
I
in the
was there.
trenches. We were there. We were there from it was like a 4-hour game. It was ridiculous.
4-hour game.
The game took forever.
It was a wild game though. I did see that.
It was fun.
It
It was
was-
really fun
it was
until
alright.
until Buddy's leg turned to silly putty. Unfortunate for Dresser win, but yeah, I mean,
Happens.
it happens. Yeah, I guess.
Brad, overall, how was your weekend?
It was pretty good. Like I said, you've never seen a leg go 7 ways until you watched an instant replay over and over and over and over.
So we didn't watch it that many times in the booth. I mean, we watched it from every angle we had, and then we were like, all right, what's the least graphic angle, and we showed
Right.
it from there. So
I didn't even see it. Was it that bad?
It was bad.
Dang.
It was pretty bad.
I kind of missed.
No, you don't.
I don't
trust
wish
me.
I saw it because obviously I don't want the
His
dude to get
leg
hurt.
his foot was literally pointing towards his butt.
That's
him backwards.
terrifying, actually.
It was pretty bad.
Flashback to my ACLs. Nowhere near the same, but
It-
just
it
the
was-
pain.
It was bad. I can imagine the pain. Yeah. Well, no,
Ugh.
I can't imagine the pain.
I was about to say,
actually.
I don't think I
But
could. I would probably pass out.
Anyway,
Yeah, speaking of Austin P football, that's our first topic for the day.
Woo.
Tennessee Martin wins it 37-34. Ellis gets 305 yards and has 4 touchdowns. I was looking at his rush line, and I was going to ask you about this. It looked like it was a typo, but it says it rushed for -2 yards on 9 carries.
that's probably including his sack yards, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I
Sometimes
had to have
statisticians
been.
do that.
Yeah.
Typically, your sack yards, at least professionally, come off of your passing yards, or they're just their own thing. So whoever was doing the stats for that game is maybe not as in tune with how you do it in 2021 as
Right.
other people are. But no,
You- Most people only
Overall-
count the net gainage.
right. So overall, offense looks pretty good on Sunday for Austin P.
Ahmad Tanner rushed for 105. Mentor got 2 touchdowns. He went 97 yards.
Right. So
Overall,
With,
it sounds like on paper. I mean, it looks like
with D'Angelo Wilson still kind of banged up a little bit,
Right.
Mentor was able to kind of get in there and make something shake. But I just think really for this one, it was just inability to get stops when you needed it, and that's kind of weird because we're used to seeing, especially when the last time we saw Austin P in a full season, defense was the calling card. Granted, there was a lot of they got stops here and there, and all credit to Martin because I think especially Barry Gresham on the call said that I would challenge you to find 2 other teams in the conference that have a better core of receivers than Austin P and UT Martin. Really, the only one that could be close is Jacksonville State. Everyone else, it's not even close. I mean, you got to think Eugene Mentor, like you said, went for 90 and 2 touchdowns on the day, transferred from Arkansas State, I believe, and doesn't even get in the formation if D'Angelo Wilson's healthy. So
Yeah.
I think that just goes to show how good the receivers and deep they are at Austin P and UT Martin. The same deal. They've got several great options. I mean, they had guys were getting open all day long. Couldn't really do much about their run game, and credit to them because they came out and they finished the game with their 3rd string quarterback. So
hey, you got to do what you got to do.
yeah.
So for Austin P, was it just the defense that kind of, I don't want to say lost this game, or was it just kind of a
I don't
combination
think it was
of a couple
necessarily
things?
the defense losing anything. I just think that it was a team effort, and the team itself played well. I just think UT Martin, basically, it was going to come down to who had the ball last,
Right.
and Martin just happened to have the ball last.
Just one of those timing
Granted,
things.
now Austin P did block the game-winning field goal, but Coach Walden called a timeout before the
Oh,
snap,
man.
and then he came back on the next play and made it. So. We even said it in the studio after the game. We were like, Coach Walden's sick right now. But,
Oh, yeah.
you gotta put that behind you. Short memory. Got a road trip to Jacksonville, Alabama this week to play that other team that wears red in the OVC, and it's Jacksonville State's long been kind of they beat up on everybody in the conference, because they get all the rejects that can't make the grades at Auburn and Alabama for their team, and luckily they're leaving the conference, so they'll actually go to a conference where they're not playing people who are 3-star recruits or people that transferred from, Eastern Washington State, Tech University, and things like that. So all credit to Jacksonville State, though. They've come in, they've dominated this conference for a long time, but it's nice to see them finally move on to somewhere where the level is going to be a little bit more even.
Heck of a recruiter over in Jacksonville. But speaking of recruiters, Austin P women's basketball. This is our next topic for today. Brittany Young is going to be coming in for the women's basketball organization here at Austin P as the new head coach coming out of Mississippi State. She acted as an assistant coach and as a recruiter for Mississippi State. And, I mean, now coming in, technically first-year head coaching position at Austin P. It's going to be interesting to see how things kind of develop for the Governors this offseason.
Sure, and the biggest thing is they got her in early, right? They didn't leave it until June or July to announce a head coach. Midlick was let go or not. His contract wasn't renewed maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And
we talked about it last week, I believe.
Typically, if you're going to let a long-time coach like that go, you've got someone in mind. And I guess
I don't know if you saw the press release on letsgop.com. I think they were talking about Gerald Harrison, who is the athletic director for Austin P, said that, I'm paraphrasing here, but I believe he mentioned that her name had come up a lot in conversations prior to making that decision. So I think you're right. I think it was kind of – I think the people who were making that decision
David wasn't Midlick's
guy,
or David wasn't Gerald's guy, and so Gerald got the coach he wanted in is kind of what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, a little bit.
So kind of what it sounds like to me. And those things happen whenever you have changes in athletic directors at schools. It happens all the time. Typically at your bigger schools, like if Alabama hires a new athletic director, it's going to be like, hey, you're going to do whatever Nick Saban says, and if you don't like it, well, you can go find a job somewhere else.
That's hashtag Dallas Cowboys at the professional level. Jerry Jones just controlling everything.
Pretty much.
Everything. General manager, president, GM, towel boy, head coach, assistant coordinator, recruiter.
8 and 8 specialist.
Yep, there you go. Kicking team coach, special teams coach, all the things. That's Jerry Jones for you. Anyway, it's going to be interesting. Now, David Midlick had a great success. I don't want to say great success. He had success here at Austin P.
He was okay.
He took him to 6 straight postseasons, and, I mean, that's not easy to do. I mean, he is a good coach. I just think that they weren't able to progress just slightly further, which is where there was that disagreement.
I think it speaks more to the lack thereof of talent in women's basketball in the OVC.
Yeah.
Because we watched the women's team pretty closely for the last 3 or 4 years, and they weren't bad, but they weren't exactly good either. They were kind of middling.
It was one of those. There were a couple seasons where it felt they were consistent, and then they were out there making plays. They were able to do a lot of work. New people were coming in, and the new freshmen looked clean, and they were able to kind of just kind of mend with the team. And there was a moment, I believe it was in the middle of not last season, the season before last, where, I mean, it looked like the Austin P Governors had an opportunity to kind of take it into the OVC and actually make a run, but then they kind of started to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, and in the OVC, when it comes to basketball, men or women's, you're just gonna have to see Belmont. Like there's no way around that. You're gonna have to contend with Belmont, and so far in the past, in our time here at Austin P, no one has contended with Belmont except for John Morant at Murray State.
Right,
so.
And that's on the men's side, but the women's side, I don't think anybody has even come close to it.
Like the Belmont women's team just like blows everyone out year after year. I believe UT Martin was pretty good last year.
Yes.
And I believe maybe Morehead State was also quite good. There's a lot of teams that are like pretty good. They've got one or two really good players, but then like you look at Austin P and it's like our best players, we don't really have scores. It's the same way for the men's team. There's not really any scores outside of like Terry Taylor.
Right.
That's and we've harped on that a lot on this show, is that you don't have any scores except for one person. You will not win modern basketball like that.
Well, and and there are a lot of 3-point shooters on that women's team who are comfortable taking those big shots, but one thing that is kind of frustrating to watch is, and this is, from what I observed as the play-by-play announcer for the women's team at the time, was sometimes it felt that they lost focus of getting the ball into the basket and tried to focus on the 3-point shot only. And I don't remember if it was you or another one of my announcing partners, but they said something, you can live or die by the 3-ball. And there were a lot of times where I felt the women's team died by it. And they just kept looking for it, and it wasn't falling.
I agree.
They weren't able to switch that.
I certainly get what you're saying. Now, on the flip side of that, though, I myself felt like there was way too many times where they were attempting to force it in down low myself. So I think that what we're kind of finding out here as through this discussion is that they never found good balance.
That's a true statement. I feel like they have two extremes.
Mm-hmm.
They're either going to throw the 3-ball up all the time, or they're going to try to drive it into the paint.
Can you remember, maybe it was 2 or 3 years ago, Bree Alexander was center, the 5 for Austin P.
Right.
And there were several games in a row where it was like 10 or 15 possessions in a row The play started, bounce pass into the paint to Bree Alexander, and the play went from there. And it's just like, it was so like baffling to me. I was like, okay, I could understand doing it 15 times a game, but you're doing it 10 or 15 times in a row?
Yeah.
Like, I guess Midlick may have just seen something really about that matchup that he liked, but I don't remember it being very beneficial or efficient.
One thing I will say about Midlick that I actually loved was his pressure on full court. I mean, he loved to run the full court press, and he did it, I think, every single game. It worked. And I think he had a great idea of how to run that to where it will be the most effective against teams. Now, it did not work really against some teams. Belmont, as I nail my nose on the mic. I do that quite often. Shame. Anyway, he does that a lot, and it worked so well, and it's so fun to watch because on some teams, they'll shut them down completely, and they have no idea how to get around it.
And a lot of times, the full court press is literally just about effort. That's all it is. Like, anyone can pull off a decent full court press. You just have to have the effort and the effort from your players to pull it off. So
I don't know about that one. I don't know if you can. Running an effective full court press, I think, takes a little bit more skill.
Well, there is certainly some skill to it, but what I'm saying is, like, you can have all the skill in the world, but if you're not going to give the effort on it, then it's just not going to work in general.
Okay, we're making the difference between effort and skill.
Sure.
Okay, now I understand what you're saying.
Yep.
You're right. I would agree with that. Effort is a huge factor, being able to get, back on defense or get back over into the full court press.
But still having that mental skill and physical skill to understand your
assignment. Now, I will say, I don't think I've seen another team who has forced so many turnovers in Austin Peay in the full court press.
Oh, yeah. There were several games where
they had like 6 or 7 or 8 due to just the full court press, not counting like steals on the other side of the court.
Yeah, and I mean, in a row, like in some cases. Like, there were several games where they were in the double digits by halftime in turnovers. And it was just – and, those are the games where they would win by 10 or 15 points. But, if you're living and dying at that point by – turnovers, then is that really any better than living and dying by the 3-ball?
I don't even know the answer to that question, to be honest with you, but it will be interesting to see how Austin Peay kind of goes. I wanted to know if they're going to keep it or are they going to get rid of it, and I think that's going to be a huge factor because some of these girls, I mean, you got a new coach, you're going to have to adjust, new schemes and everything else along with what that comes with a new head coach. I just don't know how Austin Peay is going to react. I don't know too much about Brittany Young, and I don't know too much about Mississippi State's women's team.
Mississippi State's been one of the premier teams in women's basketball for a little bit now.
I knew that. I knew that they have done well. I just haven't been able to watch a lot of games. Mm-hmm. So let me rephrase that.
From a scheme standpoint.
Exactly. So I really don't know I don't know if they focus, if she has focused, Miss Young, I don't know if she has focused a lot on defense or if she's more offensive driven. I think that's what I'm more excited to see. Absolutely. So let's jump into more college basketball. It has been an incredible March Madness for me anyway. I have been having a blast with it.
I think I picked a good year not to do a bracket.
I think you did too. Don't get me wrong. My bracket is
everyone's bracket's done. It's not even close.
Gone. I will say, last time I checked, I was beating Barry Gresham in our standings. So
really, I know that in our. I'm obviously not in it, so I haven't been following it. But I know that our producer Nathan is pointing out that his Midwest bracket is just. I think he's only got like 2 left. He's in my ear saying now that he's struggling really badly.
Yeah, he is. It's not going well.
It's just not good for him. But I think it's exciting because I think college football could kind of take, NCAA college football could take a hint from how the basketball's done because you've got all these like high ticket teams that are getting done in by your Oral Roberts and your Loyola Chicagos and your North Texases, and sure some of those teams aren't in there anymore, but they made 1 or 2 game runs. Those guys got some national exposure. They managed to make a name for themselves a little bit, almost like St. Louis a couple years ago when they made a deep run in the tournament. So I think, obviously, the wear and tear on your body is a little bit different from football to basketball. But I think, what would you rather see? A couple upsets in March for March Madness every year, or would you rather see the same 4 teams in the college football playoff every year? Because for the college football playoff, it's been the same teams every year.
Yeah, it's
Give
true.
and take your Georgia here and there.
So are you suggesting a complete overhaul of how...
Not necessarily an overhaul, but I think you do it more tournament style versus seeding because at that point you're leaving it up to voters when you could say, all right, let's just, as hypothetical, there's what you have 5 conferences that you would consider the Power 5, right? So you take the champion of each Power 5 conference, whichever one has the best record or is the highest ranking or whatever gets a bye. All the other teams get put into like a tournament bracket, and then you have the group of 5. Those champions get matched up based on seeding on records with a Power 5 team. And then maybe you have 2 or 3 teams that get in that large bid. So then you've got like a 14-team playoff instead of a 4-team playoff. but all the seeding and stuff lines up good. It still is a big deal to make it because you still have to be the champion of, if you're a Marshall or if you're a FAU or a Memphis, you still have to win your conference more or less to get in.
Right.
But it gives those, because at Marshall you're playing for a conference championship, and then if you have a really good season where you get a lot of national recognition, you might make a New Year's Bowl.
That's interesting.
You have virtually and the NCAA wants to make it look like, no, everyone has the chance to make the playoff. No, I do not believe that for a second.
Not at all.
There's no chance. You're telling if Marshall next year if Marshall for the next 3 years went undefeated, boom, 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 every year, the highest ranking they might get is 6, guaranteed.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, to me, I think it's just
I'm trying to picture that, like that kind of platform for football, and I just don't know if it would be valuable. I guess that's not even the word I'm looking for. I don't know if it would be substantial. I think
Sure.
I think people would lose interest quickly. Not because it's a tournament style necessarily. I just think it might take too long to process it. Football games are a lot longer than basketball games.
Sure.
A lot of different things happening, and I think you are – I'm just going to say it. You are way more prone to get injured on a football field than you are on a basketball court. Don't get me wrong, you can get injured on a basketball court.
Sure.
We've seen it happen many a times. However, I just don't know if teams can – I don't know if students will want to do that. And then you also have to understand these are student athletes, so they also have school that they have to get done, not just play football.
Right.
You know what I mean? I just don't know. I like the idea, and I think it would be really cool to see, and I think it could give us some really cool fan engagement. I think it could be an awesome idea for NCAA. I just don't know if it could last long. I think it could only work for maybe 2 or 3 seasons.
I understand what you're saying. At the same time, though, I think that everyone – at this point, your mid-majors – are offering you the same promise as your Power 5 schools. Because my dad always likes to use the analogy, well, Nick Saban can get whoever he wants because he can walk in any kid's room in America and be like, hey, son, you want to play in the NFL? Come play for me. Well, guess what? Anyone can do that now.
That's true.
We've seen guys like Darnell Mooney for the Bears who played at Tulane. Do you know what state Tulane's even in, Jeff?
Arizona?
It's in Louisiana.
Geography person.
So guess what? You've got guys going to places like Tulane who are getting drafted and having high-profile rookie seasons in the NFL. You can go to the NFL from any college. If you're good enough, they'll find you.
Well, I mean, another example, just Eastern Illinois University. Not
Jimmy Garoppolo and Tony Romo.
Tony Romo both came out of there, and Sean Payton, who was coaching, came out of Eastern Illinois. I mean, you just don't know where players are going to come from. And then John Morant, John Morant at Murray State. Murray State, I mean, is a good basketball team, but John Morant, I mean, it wasn't a huge school, is what I'm trying to say. And John Morant was able to make it to the NBA. I think with the NFL, with that kind of platform, I just don't know. It's hard. It's hard to tell, especially if you don't see it. You know what I mean?
I think 14 teams may be a little too big to start with.
Right.
Obviously, I think you try out maybe 8 at first. So you take your Power 5 conference champions each one, and then you have 3 at-large teams.
Okay. And what would be the stipulations to get those 3 spots?
Those 3 at-larges?
Yep.
I mean, I think you would just use the same maybe almost a voting system too, or because
I
right
hate
now
the voting system.
I don't like it either. But for college football, there's no really another way to do it.
Yeah, I know.
Because it's so hard to. I mean, you could go by because I mean they're supposed to at least take into consideration like conference championships, standings, everything like that.
I mean, just a couple years ago, Austin Peay did not get voted into the playoffs, and I think everybody at Austin Peay was kind of upset about that.
Yeah, everyone was very upset that Stony Brook made the playoffs instead of us, and then they got smoked in the first round, 70-0. So that
it was Austin Peay's first winning season.
Great job, FCS. You guys made a great decision there.
It was Austin Peay's first winning season in 2 years.
They got their. I believe they got their first win in 2 years that season.
Yeah, but we maybe that's what it was. But we still won a few more games after that.
No, we won 8 games, I believe, because the only games we lost one FCS game to Jacksonville State here at home.
Right, and when I say we, I mean myself, because I'm out there putting pads on.
At the time, I worked for the team, so I will say
he's allowed to say that.
At the time, the only games we lost that season were to Cincinnati, Miami of Ohio, UCF, and Jacksonville State University. Only one of those teams in Jacksonville State is in an FCS, and according to the selection committee, you're not penalized for losing to FBS teams, but at the same time, their reasoning for not voting Austin Peay in was that we played too many FBS teams. So because we played too many opponents that were above our level, we didn't make the playoffs, even though we scored more points on the University of Central Florida than anyone else did that season, including Auburn in their bowl game. and Memphis twice.
Yeah. It was, I don't know. But to go back to what that playoff platform and trying to figure out ways to kind of change things, what do you like about what do you like about March Madness besides the actual way teams are made? What do you like about it that you think could transfer over into?
Well, I just think that you look at, what other time in a high-stakes game is a university like Oral Roberts, which no one's probably heard of very much until now.
Right now.
What other opportunity are they going to have to play like one of the top 10 basketball teams in the nation on a national stage and beat them?
Yeah, that's true.
That's my point. So, like, obviously if you have only like 18, it's a lot easier for basketball when you have 64 in the tournament. For football, it's not as good. Because
it does open up.
For football, your biggest underdog is going to be like Memphis or UCF to like Ohio State or something.
Right. I think it also it gives opportunity to those teams who are good, like you were talking about. It gives those teams an opportunity to actually go out and make a Cinderella story.
Sure.
Some teams I feel kind of like what we saw with Austin Peay. They weren't even given a chance to go out to the playoffs and show that they were able to compete, because the honest truth is it was because they haven't shown what they were able to do the past 2 seasons. And they were completely defeated. And then they go and they win a few games, and then it's still like, yeah, but because of your past, we're still not going to let you in.
Pretty much.
I think that's kind of crappy.
Yeah, and it's just part of it. I mean, when you are a perennial loser like Austin Peay's football program has been for the last, half century, it's just part of it. But, at the same time, as a committee member, I think it's up to you to be more diligent, especially when you're dedicated to that level of football at the FCS level. I think it's up to you to be a little bit more diligent and actually take into account, okay, well, what does their schedule look like, who have they played, things like that. Because granted, I don't remember the OVC being exceptionally good that year, but, you got to think we came in second in the conference to Jacksonville State, who was like the second or third overall seed in the tournament. So
just kind of how the cookies crumble on that one,
Yeah.
I guess. We're going to go ahead and move into our next topic now. Actually, real quick, who's winning March Madness?
Who's winning March Madness?
Who's winning March Madness?
The field.
Okay. Brad?
Basketball team.
Oh, that's what I like to hear. I got Bama.
Okay.
Bama's still in it.
Actually, no.
Keeping
Matter of
hopes
fact,
up.
go ahead and give me Loyola.
All right.
Loyola's going to win, and Sister Jean's going to die at midcourt.
Oh
That's
my
what's gonna happen. I'm
gosh!
kidding. That's-
Please no.
That's terrible. I know, but no.
in the
but
middle of a
all-
live
in all-
broadcast,
in-
too.
In all seriousness, though, Loyola's playing good. I just
They are
want to see
playing
them
good.
win because they've got that dude who just looks like he should not be playing basketball. He's got the widow's peak with
Yep.
the really bad mustache, and he's left-handed, and he's kind of like a chunky dude.
Yep.
It's great. He look like he's 100%. His nickname is either Bubba or Big Country. 100%.
Hey, listen. Hashtag Team Big Guys, all right? Going out there repping.
I mean, hey, he's hooping though. Like
He's hooping.
he's kind of hooping.
I can't hoop. So,
Okay, I'm not great, but I'm decent.
that's all I got.
Granny shots all day.
So, does it hurt your back when you shoot?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a little older. It's hard with the walker.
So what I'm hearing is that Brad is kind of like Jackie Moon.
Ooh.
Dun-dun-dun.
Nice.
I like that one.
like it.
All right, next topic, last topic. My own topic, I would say, but
all
we're
you, Jeff.
we're gonna I'm gonna try to get you guys into the conversation here. Now, let's talk about Major League Baseball. We are getting so close to opening day, and I have been ready since the World
Closing day.
Series. World Series ended, and I was like, all right, let's start next season. But a lot of preseason predictions come out, and it is. I hate preseason predictions because, especially in baseball, I think baseball is the only one that does it by numbers as much as they do. Don't get me wrong, I think football does too, but I think there's a million more numbers involved.
Now, when you
in
say by
baseball.
numbers, what do you mean?
Like a lot of these predictions are run based on.
Is it almost like BCS used to be, where they kind of just put everything in a predictor, like a
Yes,
program?
yeah,
Okay.
like they look
that's
at on
goofy.
base percentage, they look at
Oh,
past stats. I mean, it's all numbers based.
Yeah, that's goofy.
You know what I mean? So there is no real, in my opinion, there's no real. It's just like, okay, this is what they've done in the past, but people
It's
make
almost
changes.
like,
people,
ooh, yeah, we're gonna have the program run everything and just
Yeah.
say, okay, this is who
doesn't
said
make
the
sense. Like
program said it's gonna
I
win.
forget which prediction I was reading. The one I have today was based off of CBS, but I forgot who it was, but they had the Braves getting 4th in the National League East, and that doesn't make sense.
Who's in the conference with not conference, but who's in that division with them?
It is the Braves, the Mets, the Phillies, the Heat, not the Heat, Miami. I think that's it. I might be missing one.
Aren't all those teams except for the Braves like kind of bad?
No. Well,
Okay.
Miami, yes. Hopefully not for much longer. Hopefully they're going to build up a little bit more. Derek Jeter's working some stuff down there in Miami. But
yeah, okay.
anyway, like I
guess
said,
I'm a little behind the curve because I've always
Yeah.
understood the Mets to just kind of be the Browns of the MLB.
No, they're actually pretty good. That's actually one of the Braves' big rivals is the Mets. Let me rephrase that. One of my biggest rivals because I hate the Mets. But thanks to Grom. Anyway, I digress. Listen, so I'm just going to read this off real quick. Now, the American League East, they have the Yankees winning. These are based off CBS, by the way. American League Central, the White Sox are winning. In AL West, Houston, the National League East, the Atlanta Braves, which I think is a very accurate prediction. Let's go Braves. Chop on. National League Central, the St. Louis Cardinals look like they're going to take it. And then the National League West is going to be the Los Angeles Dodgers. I agree with I agree with most of these. The only ones I don't necessarily agree with is the National League Central. I think the Cubs are going to come out on top of that one just because I feel like their pitching has gotten a little bit stronger, and I think they're only going to get more strong as we go into the season. Now, a lot of teams are trying to focus on the defense because especially the Braves, and I'm going to get into the Braves here for a second because the Braves have a lot of opportunities to make a huge run for the World Series. Last season, coming really close, losing just one game. Had the lead and everything in the series, and then lost 3 games straight. Kind of a heartbreaker.
Rest in peace, the Atlanta
Yeah,
teams.
R.I.P. Thank you, Los Angeles. 2 years in a row, I believe. Nope, I'm sorry. Yeah, they beat us. Yeah. I know what I'm talking about. And so Los Angeles Dodgers beat the Braves this past year. The year before that, St. Louis kicked us out. And then the year before that, the Dodgers again. So hopefully we can avoid the Dodgers this season. But the Braves keep Marcell Ozuna, who's one of the best hitters in the National League. And then also Mike Soroka, who is a phenomenal pitcher for the Atlanta Braves. Got injured early last season. It was only a 60-game season. So he got injured. I think it was in between like 1 and the 15 games. In between the first 15 games, I believe Mike Soroka got hurt. One of the biggest prospects to come in. Great pitcher, gets hurt, now he comes back. A lot of things happening. So baseball is going to get interesting, and I think the Braves are going to have a huge opportunity. I think they could make it to the World Series this year. Unfortunately, that is all of the time that we have on the show for today. Next time, I might be able to get some more baseball in there, make you guys listen to me.
I just want to point this out. We still got a little bit, like 30 seconds or so. But as you said, Braves winning the World Series. Our producer, Nathan, who is a Cardinals fan, was kind of like laughing in my IFB. So,
well, me and Nathan can talk later.
Basically, what I'm hearing is that we're going to have pay-per-view GA boxing.
Ooh, that might be an idea. Hey, but we'll see you guys next week on Crunch Time here in the studios of 91.9 FM.